Please join me in welcoming Jeremy Gall, CEO and founder of Breezeway.
Thank you. Thank you, Simon.
Go for it.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Simon already told you who I am. I'm Jeremy. I'm the founder and CEO of Breezeway. Happy to be here. Thank you, Avantio, for having us and putting on this fantastic event. We want to talk today about the guest experience, scaling operations, and we're going to use this half hour. I'm going to walk through, there's a couple of questions that keep coming up, that Avantio said kept coming up from their clients, talking about operations and quality, and some of the major themes and questions that their clients have about operations. And so I'm going to focus the first 15 minutes of the presentation on one in particular, which is scaling for quality experiences, and a couple of things that we've seen across our client base and in the market for scaling quality experiences. And then we'll open it up for a nice discussion with Simon and the audience for a little bit longer Q&A and dig into this operational workflow. I started Breezeway because after starting FlipKey, I felt that the biggest challenge that was facing managers going forward was quality and was this service experience, that there were sort of two hubs that were developing around your business. One, the reservations and the accounting and how you distribute and manage your listings, which is really the system of the property management software system. And then another that was all about operations and service. Everybody's having trouble with this clicker. I'm going to give it a go. That works. I might have to do this, I think, is what they told me. So I think of it really simply as this. Before you can deliver this kind of an experience, this 5-star quality hospitality experience, which is what we are all aiming to do, right? Like, this is what it means to be a quality hospitality provider, is to deliver this 5-star experience. At the end of the day, that's what you want your guests to be leaving with. But before you can create this experience, 2 for 2, sweet. All of this work needs to be done. You're a hospitality provider, you're running a quality hotel hospitality-like experience with distributed unique properties in multiple locations. So you have to do the same work that's being done at this amazing resort, but you have to do it with properties that you don't fully control, that you don't own, that aren't all in the same location, and that are not all the same. I don't know what the Spanish word for brutal is, but it's really hard. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done to get this done. And so what operations management is how do you effectively do all of this, from cleaning to preventative maintenance, inspections, communicating with the guest, that's part of the service experience, throughout the whole process. So here's a couple of things. One is focusing on optimizing your workflows. When you have unique properties and you're scaling your business and you're growing, scheduling the work is one of the most tedious and time-consuming processes. In other presentations that we do, we talk about the fact that every month, if you have a portfolio of, let's say, 50 units, you have about 6,000 points of failure that month that can go wrong in your operation. And if you're handling them in a manual fashion and you're not thinking about how you are going to schedule that work and really put your staff in position to get the work done effectively, you are really at risk of jeopardizing the guest experience. And if you can focus on this, and if you can, whatever tools you're using, but as you think about your business and you're thinking about scaling, if you can focus on the scheduling piece of it and how you schedule this work consistently across a unique portfolio of properties, and the tools you can use to do that, and how much time, really dig in with your staff. If you're big enough that you have a director of operations who's helping you at your company, spend some real time with this person, right? They are one of the most critical people in your organization. Spend some real time with them and understand, what are the true scheduling challenges? How are we doing this? And how, if I'm going to continue to grow and scale my business, what can we do that's more effective here? How much time are you spending? What are the gaps? and how can we improve this and actually optimize this? Because what ends up happening is if you can automate these workflows and tailor them more specifically to each property, you're going to be setting your team up for tremendous success. Next, we spent a lot of time at Breezeway focusing on this with our partners with Avantio, which is enabling professional work without the headaches. The amount of work, guest expectations, we talk about this a lot as well in presentations. Guest expectations are rising. I heard this new term, this might not translate either, but in America, if you're one of the best athletes, you're a GOAT, you're the greatest of all time, right? And so what we're learning is that from some research that Expedia was doing, people, younger travelers in particular, are going to try and have a GOAT-like experience. They want to have the greatest of all time trip. They want everything to be perfect when they go on their trip. They're so experience-focused, and they're really trying to optimize their trip. And what that means is that you have more and more that you need to do to reach that expectation. So we're seeing over the last couple of years the amount of work that managers need to do to continue to meet that rising expectation is tremendous. It just keeps increasing, right? More work to do the same job. And so it's causing more maintenance tasks, 58% increase in maintenance tasks. It's causing requirements on inspection checklists to increase dramatically by about a third because you're doing more work. You're checking off more to make sure that this property is absolutely picture perfect. We also talk a lot about this, and I think this is one of the key pieces to any business that's looking to scale. And people talk a lot about their brand standards. Does everybody understand what I mean by brand standards? This is what you need to do across your operation to make sure that you're putting your brand forward and you're delivering the kind of properties and homes and experiences that you want for guests that will resonate with their trip to your homes. What's happening is that in order to meet those expectations, the amount of touches that you're doing on the property are increasing as well, right? So you're touching the property more frequently, you're inspecting the property more frequently. So the tip here is really invest in quality control. Think about how, as your business grows and you're adding more properties, how are you investing in quality control so that you're sure the work that's being done can actually be translated and effective back to your team? Many of you and many of our clients use a mix of internal staff and external service providers. That mixture of internal staff and external service providers means that you have an extra challenge built in, right? A lot of those service providers are seasonal staff. They may be changing year over year. You're retraining people as they come in, trying to help them understand what your brand standard is. The more you can build that into your process, the more you can leverage software and technology to sort of simplify that whole landscape and complexity, the better positioned you are for staff turnover and making sure that staff can be educated very quickly about what it is they're supposed to do, whether that staff is internal or they're external. And we're seeing a lot of great companies really lean into this as they think about how they're going to deliver service so they can build up their brand. The other thing, when we think about operations that I think you should keep in mind is smart communication. We did a survey last year, a different stat that's not up here, but that the one challenge, the biggest challenge that property managers raised, besides quality and trying to meet guest expectations, was communicating with the guest. Effective communication with the guest and how they continue to do that, meet the guest in the communication channels that they're using, and use that to help foster the experience and the service that they want to deliver. So this is super important. I think the timeliness and the effectiveness of guest communications, you should really look at your program, how you're communicating with guests, how you're leveraging text messaging and SMS messaging or WhatsApp, so that you can actually communicate with guests at the right point. We believe that about a day before the guest stay begins, guest communication has changed from a marketing initiative to an operations initiative. Because these guests are not your pen pals, they're there for an experience, and if they're writing to you during that period, it is highly likely that it's a service engagement, and that you need to be able to take that message and turn it into a service engagement with your operations team during the stay. So I'd encourage you to look at how you're doing that now, look at that communication path, and again, like scaling and growing is all about optimization. I'm supposed to do this. Yeah. Here's another one, and I think this sort of bubbles up a few takeaways from the beginning of this presentation. If you focus on quality, I think you can also solve some staffing issues and save time by working smarter. This is about working smarter. When you think about some of the macro big ideas that I laid out at the beginning, guest expectations going up, extra work, vacation rental management runs on a fairly thin margin. You don't have a lot of margin, and if you heard some of the other sessions earlier talking about price optimization and talking about really profitability and managing profitability, you don't have a ton of margin to work with. So you have to find ways to work smarter. If staffing has become a challenge, if you feel that staffing shortages may be impacting your business, or the cost of labor may be increasing to get the same work done, you have to take more control of that operational workflow and think about how you can use data, how you can use tools to really engage your staff. I encourage you to do that. Look at last season's workflows, understand where the bottlenecks were, look at your cleaning data, look at your maintenance data. Because in the end, this is the experience. When I stayed, I've got a bunch of kids. This isn't me. I guess that's obvious. I've got a bunch of kids, and when you go into a vacation home, you go into a holiday rental, this is what we're all aiming for, which is your guests arrive, and they're so excited. And the only way to do that is to really focus on this operational workflow and the quality. You want to deliver this kind of an experience. These turn into 5-star reviews. They turn into repeat guests. They turn into advocates for your business, which helps lower your marketing costs. This is what we're all shooting for, but it really takes a focus on service and operational excellence in order to achieve it. I did such a good job until the end. Okay. And so now Simon's back, and he's going to ask me some tough questions.
I've taken so many notes, Jeremy, and I think the previous picture did definitely not illustrate my face when I checked in yesterday. If anybody hasn't seen it, go and check in my LinkedIn account. You will see a shower which has a new amenity. It's called Gorgonzola. It was all gray on the ceiling, right? So, we always love these great pictures, but we know in reality these are massive challenges, right? You talked about, minimum standards. You talked about meeting rising expectations. My immediate thought is that has a margin compression issue as well, because you need to do more for less money. So I think there's a lot of things that we need to consider, and probably is there anybody in this room who doesn't have any operational or execution or quality challenges at all? Jeremy, you always see you at the booth at Breezeway, they solve it all for you. So this has become one of our single biggest challenges, right?
Yeah.
But before we go a little bit deeper there, my first question I want to ask you, what is your personal meaning or understanding of brand versus an industry standard, right? Because I stay in so many rentals all the time, and I'm absolutely blown away that we're having a massive discrepancy in terms of what is being executed and what is delivered, and these are not just, this is not about high quality, ultra high quality luxury to the lower end. Does an umbrella belong to an apartment as a standard, right? I mean, I went out yesterday, it was teeming down in Valencia. Do you think I could find an umbrella in an apartment? No chance, right? I had to steal one from the hotel, but I brought it back. So tell me, should we go and push an industry standard conversation here, or is it really coming down to a brand standard discussion?
I think, Simon said this is my second business in the space, so I've worked with holiday and vacation rental managers for almost 20 years, many internationally as well, and I think it's your benefit for there to be brand, it's all of your benefit to focus on brand without the industry standard, right? That's your advantage. If you can lean in and you can drive your brand, that's how you differentiate from the competition. And a lot of my presentation has been focused on guests, but that's critical for the owners. In every one of your markets, and some of you might be this person, but in every one of your markets, there is a brand new vacation rental manager who is your competition. And they have 1 or 2 properties, maybe 3. They're trying to get to 10, then they're trying to get to 50. And they are going to do it through brute force of really investing in their brand and trying to overpromise and overdeliver, not just to their guests, but also to their owners. That's how they're going to build supply. And so I think it's actually to your advantage that the industry for now is, there is a quality problem. There's a real quality problem. But the professionals can lean in and they can differentiate themselves by really delivering on their brand.
So you talked about the owners. I mean, we know, we always believe that the best approach is to be really owner and guest-centric in a way, or balanced in between, right? Your presentation and obviously Breezeway in general is about, creating this quality experience and, being able to plan all the workload that you have and all the process and everything else. But where, from your viewpoint, does the owner come into the conversation? Because obviously we still are going to continue be at large, relying on owner relationship. We don't see asset-heavy organizations. Owner operating is not going to be taking over the world of vacation rental, so we continue to deal with individual homeowners, and the only asset we have is trust, right? But then you have issues on properties. What do you tell the property managers to do with their homeowners?
Yeah.
And how to include them into this conversation?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think 2 things on the big level. When I talk to property managers, typically, at least the owners that you want to have, the owners that you want to have stick with you even if there's a small fluctuation in revenue. They leave because they show up at their property the 1 time or 2 times that they come a year, and something doesn't look right, and they believe that you've stopped caring about their property. So they pick their head up and they start looking for someone else. So I think from an operational workflow, you think about the owners in that context the same as the guests. I'll give you a quick hot tip. A lot of our customers use Breezeway for this, but do it however you want. You should be setting up workflows for an owner stay and an owner clean and an owner inspection that are automatically different and tailored to that specific owner. So it builds in your cleaning brand standard, but it has 2 or 3, maybe 4 specific requirements to that owner. And what you did prior to that was you interviewed that owner and you said, tell me what's important to you. Tell me the 4 things that you want to see every time you come to your home. Do you want the shades open? Do you want the lights on? Tell me what those 4 things are. And I am going to execute on those 4 things every time. And I'm going to show you that I care about your property.
I've got one more. I mean, we all agree that probably in relation to what we just discussed is that the most important capital that we have in vacation rental, besides the relationship to homeowners, is human capital, right? Now, human capital is becoming more and more challenging to recruit and finding the right people and being able to work for you and do what you ask them to do. And now here comes a process-heavy business, and we deal a lot with property managers who tell us, how can your cleaners actually execute all these checklists while they're, and they already need to run to the next apartment or the next house, and they shouldn't spend too much time on it. A lot of it gets lost, right? That's a challenge. And how do you deal with that, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge. We've done 15 million cleaning and inspection tasks on the platform for 50 million plus nights booked. I think part of the challenge is, and one of the reasons why, I think I'm here at the Avantio conference, is that Avantio values partners who can supplement and provide additional tools or a different way to account for some of your workflows and can really invest. Like, this is what we invest in, is making sure that it's simple for those cleaners to actually get their work done. It's a challenge, and I think it's a challenge that we have to embrace, though, that, labor is going to be a struggle, but at the end of the day, people want to know your cleaning staff, internal or external, they want to know what they're supposed to do a good job. They want it to be very clear to them.
Now, knowing that the next speaker coming on stage is somebody from Airbnb, my question to you on that one is, what role do you see the OTAs taking? It doesn't need to be Airbnb, it can be Booking or Vrbo or anybody the like, in terms of great quality experiences. They want to be seen as renting out good quality properties, but we all know it's us, the property managers, who actually make it happen, and not the OTAs who bring us potentially good demand. What role do you foresee for OTAs to take? I mean, we've seen initiatives by Booking to put like a rating system in and sort of create more pressure on this quality execution standard. What role do you think even like an Airbnb should play in the future in relation to that?
Sure. The marketplace, it's an interesting question. OTAs are it's a marketplace, right? And I think they react to the market. And I don't think we should expect them to take huge steps forward. But we should expect that what has happened over the last 10 years will continue to happen over the next 10 years, which is that quality spectrum will just continue to increase, right? I don't know. I remember 15 years ago, maybe you'd have to bring your own sheets. You'd bring your own toilet paper as you came on vacation. Maybe you brought your own pillow. You wouldn't know if there'd be sheets there. I mean, it was crazy. You can't imagine that today, right? When I was starting in this industry, you couldn't book online directly, and people wondered whether or not guests, there was a debate. Simon probably remembers this too, but there was a real debate. Will guests ever book online? No, they would rather pay by check. Will managers take online bookings? Maybe they don't because they don't want to pay their full taxes. It was crazy. And I think what we'll see over the next 10 years is that the OTAs will play the same role that everybody is playing, which is the guests, the local regulators in municipalities and states, the OTAs, the very professional managers, selection bias, the people who are in this room, and everyone, all want quality to increase. What it will do is it will drive out the people who are less qualified. Airbnb wants quality to go up. They want to keep listings on the site. They want to make sure ADRs go up. As ADRs go up, they make more money and you make more money. Everyone's interests are aligned that quality will continue to rise. The trick is that as quality continues to rise, you've got to bring along your owners. You've got to bring along your properties. You've got to bring along your service. You've got to keep up as that continues to rise as well.
So we're doomed for growth. That's what you're telling us, right? It's going to be a very tough game because everything that you alluded to is also resulting in potentially margin compression as well, right? So we need to take our owners closer to ourselves and get them to really understand what we're providing as services to the properties.
That is key. I don't know where we are in time. I don't know where
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
But that is a really key thing, and we talk to a lot of property managers about that as well, which is like this level of transparency with your owners about the work you're doing. I think owners can have a misconception about the kind of work that needs to be done to really prepare a home to the standards that you are doing. It just feels kind of easy, right? And they're like, well, we can do this. We can list our property on Airbnb. Well, you can, yeah. And you could probably be pretty good at marketing it on Airbnb. I mean, full honesty, right? I think an individual owner can be pretty good at marketing their property on Airbnb. And probably, maybe as good as you. But what they really can't do, unless they want to dig in, is deliver on that hospitality experience. That's what's special about what property managers do. And I think, we provide some tools to do this and we'll continue to invest in it, but I think this is something that's really important for property managers. If you want to fight margin compression, you have to keep your commissions up. You have to make sure, and to keep your commissions up, you have to make your owners understand the work you're doing. They have to value the work that you're doing, and the only way to do that is to really help them understand everything that you do.
Yeah,
You can't do more. You can't do more. Sorry, but
no, go ahead.
You can't do more. And we say this sometimes in conversations as well. Like, you can't afford to go to the property and touch that home and do something for that home and not get credit for it. You don't make enough money. You don't make enough money to do that.
Are there any questions from the floor? No? Please.
Yes, hi, Marco. We are fully bought into where the industry is going. But we spoke with the CEO of Avantio earlier. And he said, yes, we want to invest into operations and support for operation management. So we wanted to understand whether there's converging roadmaps. So this is an alternative and an add-on. So kind of how does the roadmap look like?
Yeah, I mean,
it's a good question.
Great question. Great question.
It's a great question. I won't speak for Avantio's roadmap because I don't know. But I will say this: that like it is certainly understandable. Avantio is one of our partners. We have 50 different ones with property management software systems, and we fully expect that the property management software systems and Avantio, Manuel understands the market dynamics. They have to invest in operations tools as well. But they need to provide a comprehensive solution for you that does so many things across a very, very wide spectrum, including operations. And how they do that and how they make that tool, even if they focus all their attention on it, many of you will have different ways in which you operate. And those tools you will relate to those tools differently, because you have a different workflow. And what's nice about having a partnership with Avantio is even if they build operations software all the way down, and they invest everything in it, it will be different than what we do. And both products will likely resonate to people, or some people will find that the way that we do it and the way that we work with checklists and the way that we work with comprehensiveness about the things you do is a little different than the way Avantio has approached it, and it will make sense to you. I can't really explain it other than that like I would never expect Avantio to disengage from their operational workflows, but I would expect, just like other property management software systems, they value this ecosystem of partners because they can give you a level of depth to the problem if you want to optimize, or a different way to do it. Does that help?
Absolute great question. I think that's the big question going forward in how the technology verticalization is going to evolve in vacation rental and who is doing what at the end of the day. I might have a final question for you, Jeremy. Having been in this industry already 18 years as well, we've seen a lot. And ultimately, our argument is always we're actually in a very simple business, right? We're actually connecting guests with owners. That's all we do. It's not that difficult, right? How much customization does Breezeway actually allow? Because everybody says, well, I'm doing my vacation rental different. I can't get my head around it, so I'm actually looking for operational standards, because then we would have certain standards. The product, what we love about vacation rental is every house is different. That's why we love vacation rental to many extents. But at the same time, we have certain operating standards we can just put standards in. Does Breezeway allow customization, or is that how they work with you?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's a combination of both, which is, you have to prepare, at base, you have to prepare a home from one person leaving to the next person being ready, and you have to deal with the service requests and the experience of that person who's in the home. That is non-negotiable, right? Everyone in this room has to do that. How you do that, how you make your workflows, how you think about your checklist, how you customize that platform to do that, we allow you to basically do that workflow in any way that you want to. We have people who, and what's really interesting is that it's not just that you have to customize for your own business. I would expect many of you in this room have to customize and change your workflows depending on the season. There is a period in your season which is, when you are most busy and you have close to full occupancy, and it is impossible for you to maintain the same operational workflow on that one period of the year where you are most busy and do exactly what you do, in shoulder season or low season. You have to change it as you go. And we allow you to do that as well. So I think it's like, you have to be flexible, has to be flexible.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Jeremy Gall.
Thank you very much.